The sea inlet at Fitzroy looks like the most peaceful place on earth, but in fact 30 years ago today it was the scene of the biggest disaster of the Falklands War, and the little farm settlement became a scene of carnage as the severely injured were brought ashore. On the 8th of June 1982, two British Royal Fleet auxiliary ships, Sir Galahad and Sir Tristram, were anchored offshore at Fitzroy. They were carrying weapons and infantry soldiers waiting to go ashore. For the men already on land, it was a peaceful afternoon when suddenly, without any warning, just after 5 o'clock, Argentine Skyhawks attacked, bombing Sir Tristram, filling the ship with smoke. Minutes later, Sir Galahad was attacked. A bomb exploded in the ship's ammunition hold, causing a huge explosion. The men on board were at the mercy of the flames and many suffered serious burns. More than 50 men were killed that day, 32 of them from the Welsh Guards.
Back end of the ship was on fire, flames were billowing out of the engine room, and we'd obviously been hit badly back aft. Looking forward, there was flames coming out of the hatch, which was actually open, to discharge the Welsh Guards' kit, including mortar bombs and the like. So it was obviously on fire down there.
Despite the exploding ammunition on board, seeking helicopters landed on the deck of Sir Galahad to rescue scores of the injured. They were taken to the field hospital at Ajax Bay for treatment.
I went down and as much of what you do as a doctor, you triage casualties on the basis of who needs what treatment first and do the things that the other soldiers can't do.
Bombed and ablaze in Port Pleasant, Sir Galahad had been carrying infantrymen from the newly arrived 5 Brigade for the final assault on Stanley. But the attack knocked out their capability as a fighting unit because so many men and weapons were lost. Due to the snow and the incredibly icy conditions here, today's memorial service for those who died at Fitzroy was held in the cathedral in the capital, Stanley. But sadly, those based here at MPA weren't able to make it. Well, also 30 years ago today, 4-5 Commando Group Royal Marines were coming to the end of their yomp from one end of East Falkland to the other. When Atlantic Conveyor was sunk, many troop-carrying helicopters went down with it, so troops had to simply walk to the battle lines around Stanley. The OC of Zulu Company at the time was Mike Cole. He's just returned to the islands to retrace his steps, yomping the 120 kilometres from San Carlos to Stanley. With him on the journey was the brother of Marine Gordon McPherson, who was tragically killed in battle just 2 days before the Argentine surrender. I joined them for 40 kilometres of the journey, walking from Douglas to Estancia. Here's the first part of my journey. It's gone down in regimental history as one of the very greatest feats of endurance. The yomp from San Carlos to Stanley, when 4-5 Commando covered 120 kilometres over tough terrain in freezing winter weather, carrying upwards of 80 pounds of kit and ammunition per man. It was Commando grit at its best. Mike Cole was a young captain at the time, commanding Zulu Company. 30 years on, he's back, retracing those steps. The memory of that time has never left him.
We got to Newhouse. I remembered it was chucking it down with rain. We went in round an all-round defence, put out sentries so we had a secure perimeter, and then those that weren't on watch could get inside a sleeping bag and then wrap a poncho around you, pull it over your head, and try and forget where you were.
David McPherson is also on this journey. His brother Gordon, a young Marine, was killed at the Battle of Two Sisters just 2 days before the Argentine surrender. He's come here to discover what life was like for Gordon in those last few days.
I was before I came here, trying to envisage in my mind what it would be like, but I just couldn't imagine the pain that every step you take would be like. It's difficult enough for us doing it during the day with a lighter pack. It's really hard work. How they could possibly do it, you've just got to admire them. They're special people.
Back in 1982, this road was really just a track, so a lot of the yomping was done in this tussock grass, which could leave the feet soaking wet or easily twist a knee or an ankle. And a lot of the walking was done at night because of the threat from Argentine attack, and they knew at the end of it they'd have to go into battle. In 1982, the Marines stopped at small settlements, gathering their strength and planning the next move. At Teal Inlet, the family who welcomed them 30 years ago are still here. They invite us in for a cup of tea and the chance to exchange stories.
Different people were helping to shift ammunition, supplies, and others were just doing jobs, trying to get food and feed them and get stuff when they were in the mountains. I used to make large pots of stew and used to go up in the helicopter, which they seemed to quite enjoy.
I done things like drove around the farm, delivering rations to the temporary hospital, to the guys from the rapier sites, helping to forward all the rations to the helipad for moving forward to the troops on the front line. You know, it's just basic things like that. Anything you could do, everybody mucked in and done it.
They were getting messages, they were telling us what, as far as they knew, what was happening, because of course they know the country much better here, and they know when there's the wrong sort of people wandering in the wrong sort of places. And they were getting messages to us which helped our intelligence, which helped us sort out the tactical picture for later, which helped us, well, basically get the job done a bit quicker.
Gordon's body was brought here after the battle at Two Sisters, where he was buried before being returned to the UK. Many civilians attended the funerals, including Chris and her father.
He liked to go and show his respect, and he was always thinking of their families away from here as well, sort of thing, so it was very difficult for him. But he made sure he went, and he said that the services were always nice.
It just sort of took my breath away, because we had no information about what it was like at Teal Inlet. We knew he was buried at Teal Inlet, but we didn't know who was there, what was there. So it was great to meet Chris and her mum, and just another piece of jigsaw fell into place.
30 years ago, this sheep shed provided much needed shelter. Back then, Zulu Company was the last to arrive after dark. The other companies in 4-5 were already settled in for the night.
82, I was parked down there, sleeping there with the rest of the Zulu Company headquarters. And then the boys were all laid out up down there. The troops from the company were laid up and down inside the fencing that you can see down on the right. And it was luxury. It was warm, in out the weather. And there must have been about 360 people in here, because all three companies, X-Ray, Yankee and Zulu, were all had their company areas within here, so keep a hold and a control on everybody. But to be spending the night back in here would be wonderful.
Mike presented Gloria with a 4-5 commando plaque, and there's a warmth between strangers who owe each other so much.
The hospitality here is completely, it's wonderful. It's very, very obvious that the people here will never forget what we did in 1982.
On the outskirts of Teal Inlet, a well-tended memorial stands to all the men who died in battle and were for a short time interred here. This is the place where their sacrifice bought freedom, and that will never be forgotten. And we'll conclude that yomp on Monday's programme. Join us from the Falklands all next week as islanders prepare to commemorate and celebrate their liberation 30 years ago.